Welcome Monday morning. My name is Clint Betts. It is so nice to see all of you, even though you cannot see me. At the very least, or I can't see you. I can't see you, but you can see me. How about that?
There we go.
Good morning. We have a lot to talk about today, in particular about a former president. But first, today's show is brought to you by Domopalooza. Make sure you go check it out. It is March 27th through 29th at the Grand America Hotel. It is a very fun, very interesting, very enlightening, and very edifying event put on every year by Domo. I believe this is the first in a number of years that they're doing it in person, making it 4 years right there. See that? I know why I'm talking. This video shows you everything. So I think, did we just play it again? Anyway, Domopalooza, domo.com/Domopalooza, domo.com/Domopalooza. I'm pretty sure we played that video twice. I feel pretty confident that we played that twice.
It's a learning exercise.
All right, real quick. And this is all breaking news. And so we got to go into it, which is the former president of the United States and potentially future president of the United States, Donald Trump, has been, he's leading in all the polls. Should I explain who Donald Trump is to the audience? They know. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Donald Trump got this legal judgment against him, which is crazy. And just like on its face is wild. It was like $475 million, I believe, he got fined for supposedly overvaluing his assets, even though literally there was no victim in the crime whatsoever. Like, this is a really interesting case. I know that there's a lot of people who immediately think it was the right decision because it's that guy you see on the screen. I know there's immediately people who think it was the wrong decision because of that guy that you see on the screen. But I've never heard of anything like this ever. Like, this is very wild to give that big of a judgment. And by the way, the whole case was about him inflating assets to banks who said, no, he didn't do that. They gave him money. Like, the bank said, like, no, we made money off of him. He made money. Everything was fine. So it's really like a weird crime with no victim, this particular case. I'm not talking about all the cases. Yeah. I don't care. My word. I can already hear all the people screaming at me.
There's more. Yeah, there are a lot.
There's a lot of cases. I'm just talking about this very particular one where he got a $454 million penalty tied to a civil fraud case involving the Trump organization. Let's just be honest. It made no sense. And
Yeah.
so he had to pay this, and he had to pay it by like today or very soon. And the bond just got lowered to $175 million this morning. Still an insane amount of money. I don't know. Has there ever been a bond even that big? But a bond as big as 454 is crazy. And in order to secure a bond that big, you got to go to where do you got to go? You got to go to a bank.
Or sell your cars or...
Yes, but that is, you sell a car, you're about maybe $1 million in, depending.
Well, yeah.
Having dealt with a lot of debt myself in my life, I can just say he just got to wait till that goes to collections. He'll get down to like $600, $700. It's coming down. He just needs to wait it out a little bit. They just want a little money.
He just needs to wait it out. Actually, just wait it out. They were talking about seizing his assets,
Yeah.
like various properties and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And people would be like, "Hey, how come he can't come up with that much money? I thought he was a billionaire." It's like, that's not really how the world works.
Yeah.
Nobody just has that much cash lying around that quickly in order to get rolling. And so you're normally like invested in things, and
Yeah.
So anyways, it got down to 175. And the crazy thing is, about this whole story is our boy Donald Trump owns 60% of a company called Truth Social, which is, I guess, a Twitter competitor.
Yep.
If I understand. It's like where he posts all of his tweets. If you want to see like a tweet from Donald Trump, or whatever they call it these days, a truth? Would it be a truth on that platform?
Yeah.
If you want to see that, you've got to, have an account on Truth Social. Probably wouldn't recommend that. And just because, he owns 60% of it, it's probably like part of the campaign.
Well, that was the one that he jumped on right when he got banned from
Yeah.
Twitter. Like
Okay.
the day it dropped, he went right on that. 4 years ago.
And so they
almost.
give him what, 60% of this company?
Yeah.
And anyways, so and it went public at some point with a SPAC, which is
Yes.
tell us about this, Garrett. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's the Digital World Acquisition Group. So if you wanted to invest and be a supporter of this, this was the way to do it. Or if you just wanted to be a speculative stock trader, that was the way to do it. So weirdly enough, Trump's getting hammered and they're, like, go sell your hotels, go sell that golf course. No, I don't want to. You're gonna. I don't got the money. Well, then, look at this lifeline. A little SPAC, a little Truth Social, a little $5 billion being floated around.
So it now has a market capitalization of $5 billion, expected to begin trading this week. Again, Trump himself owns 60%. That's kind of crazy. So they said, like, hey, we know you got kicked off Twitter. Come join Truth Social. We'll give you 60% of the company. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, I mean, they were little guys, so to get the sitting president as the leaving Twitter and coming on, that was a big get for them. Honestly, 60% was probably a discount. They probably would have had to give 90 if he was really savage with it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the all-time most prolific tweeter in the history of the world. Like he turned that into like an art form.
To be honest, I'm still trying to. I haven't watched this show much. I'm still trying to gauge the general vibe in here. But
this show?
Yeah. I don't know.
This is the vibe. Like we try to like skirt the lines and not offending
pick a
people.
side. What I'll say though is that for me, I'm a Republican.
Oh my gosh!
I apologize. I remember one time I was in a Walmart and the guy was like, "You probably voted for Trump." I was like, "Well, yeah, it's Utah." but that was the thing that bugged me the most was him tweeting. If he could just have been off the Twitter, I was super pumped about it. It was just having to hear people complain about the tweets all the time. So I'm glad that most people don't even know what Truth Social is.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's one of my favorite parts about him was the tweeting. He's just like bashing people like this ugly, dumb person, never accomplished anything in their life, and like you look up and like he's like talking about Mitt Romney.
and it's 2 a.m. You're like, what's going on?
What are you doing right now, dude?
He's like being mean.
He's the most transparent president in the history of the world. We knew exactly what he was thinking in real time.
Yeah.
At all times. Because he would just tweet it out.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So he now could potentially have 60% of $5 billion due to this. Again, like people will look at this and not like it takes a bit to get money out of there. That's not like an immediate windfall.
It will be in enough time to help with the campaign, though.
There's all these people who think like, hey, maybe he isn't worth billions like he said he is. He's very most likely worth billions like he said he was. But the challenge is it's all in terms of like, all right, now give me all of your money tomorrow. It's all locked up in real estate assets, all sorts of things, as it should be. Why would anybody put that much money in a bank?
Well, and especially a guy of his size, you'll find that most of this stuff is going to be in an irrevocable trust. So if you look at hhis accounts, he's probably got $200,000 because of how much people come after him.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a bit of I think there is a bit of a meme going around in the left that he actually isn't a billionaire. Otherwise, this judgment would be no problem at all. It's like, one, this is an excessive. I mean, if you read the Eighth Amendment, this is totally against the Eighth Amendment. A $454 million penalty for a crime that nobody was a victim of. Yeah, everybody should read this case. Like, this is actually like, forget who's involved. This is a huge challenge to the future of America and capitalism and all sorts of things. That anybody would be doing that. So that's where we're at, right? Yeah. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
No, just it's got to be good to be the Donald, though, right? Like, if you remember reading one of his books, he was completely broke and bankrupt, and the only thing he had was that McDonald's eat for life for free, right? He had that, but he was $2 billion in debt.
Is that true?
Yeah, part of the deal.
That's beautiful. I've never read
This is
that.
not his first. This is not his first.
You're like the
go-around.
first person ever to have read The Art of the Deal.
No, I'm not.
I wonder if he still got that. Like, how do you show up to like a guy who owns a franchise? Like, hey, I've got this Eat for Life. It's like, I'm not going to honor that. I own this franchise.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're Donald Trump, the most famous
buy a
person in the
cheeseburger.
world.
Yeah, and then you'd have to explain what like leverage is, and that it didn't work out for you this time. But yeah, this isn't his first rodeo, and I just think it's so funny that he's just been sitting on this. And then he's like, gosh, damn it. I probably will have to pay some of this. All right, let's do it. Back. Float it out there.
Well, I'm
All
also
right.
sure that it would be very easy to do a fundraise of $175 million for the people that want him to be president. I mean, that'd be a pretty easy one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a Teflon Don.
Teflon Don. Yeah, you have a good nickname for him. All right, introduce our guest.
Well, we've got Kyle Deever, who is not afraid to share an opinion or two. He's the president of Performance Windows and the CEO and founder of Bad Bet Productions. How are you, sir?
Oh, you know, I can't complain. Nobody listens. So I just, I'm glad to be here, guys, really.
Tell us about Bad Bet Productions.
Yeah, so with Bad Bet, like Garrett mentioned, I own Performance Windows. Me and a partner, we own it outright together. And what it started with is about 2 years into performance, things were going well, but I'm just a terrible networker. I have the hardest time walking up and saying, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Kyle. This is why we should talk." So I had all these guys around me that I wanted to be able to sit down and have a conversation with. So I was like, I better start a podcast. And I started a podcast called Leave It to Deever with the strict purpose of being able to network with guys I wanted to network. And because guys, they won't have 10 minutes to sit down and talk with you, but they definitely got an hour to sit down on a podcast with you. So I started having some pretty big business guys on there. And with that, I spent like 10, 12 G's on some podcast equipment. Cameras and things, and after
I've
that,
been there, man.
Yeah, well, you got a great setup here. It looks great. I had this little studio up in Layton. I was renting for like $900, and I had some cameras, and I glued up a bunch of sound panels. And I was like, well, I already got the equipment, so maybe I'll just start trying to sell services. And I remember I hired a kid that was he was working at like the news channel as a grip, and I had him learn how to do. So my first like 10, 12 podcasts, it's all in mono. It only comes out of one side. And I'm like, hey, can you fix this? He's like, I don't hear it. I'm like, shut up, dude. I know you hear it. And it was
Fix
just,
what?
Yeah, it was just such a grassroots thing. And then as time went on, I brought on my creative director. His name is Diego. He was this filmmaker down in Colombia that I'd met at a couple of networking events. And I brought him on full time. I helped him get his visa and moved him and his wife up here. And he's my creative director. He runs all of it. But Bad Bet, what we do is a couple things. I've got a big studio up in Sandy. So we shoot podcasts. But the big thing we do is we do video services for companies. The problem that a lot of companies have is they'll hate video. And the reason being is that they hired some kid who had a camera who can make a bunch of quick cuts and put in a trending song, and it doesn't do anything for them. It's because it's not telling the story. You know, you'll watch a video and be like, that was really cool, but what is this? What does this company do?
Yeah.
And so these guys, they'll pay 10 G's for a video of a bunch of quick cuts, and it won't do anything for them. They're like, well, video doesn't work because it was a kid with a camera.
Video really is. So first of all, it's crazy how much, if you're really, really good at that, you can make. That is a very legitimate business. And it's very hard to get right. But once you get it right, man, could it be incredible. I'm sure you've heard of the Harmon brothers.
Yep.
I mean, look at what they've built from like doing like little company videos, like around like the Squatty Potty I think about. And now they're doing like major motion pictures. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, the problem, my biggest problem is finding people who understand that they need video. I always say that people will do it on their cell phone, and one time I thought I'd save $15 and I'd change my own oil, right? And then I was on my way to Wendover, and I didn't screw something in right, and I got broke down on the salt flats. Too many people are trying to change their own oil and getting broken down on the salt flats and thinking, I don't need oil for my car anymore. When in reality, it's such an important investment in people knowing what you do and how you do it. Yeah. I run Performance Windows, and one of the biggest things we tell people for recruiting is people need to know what you do and that you enjoy what you're doing. If you're not putting it out there, it needs to be the right message. So that's our big thing. The other big thing too, I mean, not to make this a commercial for Bad Bet, but honestly, it's I saw people charging. I asked a guy one time. I said, he was a videographer, well known, so I won't say his name, but I was like, hey, how much to come by for 6 hours and teach my guy how to do a couple things? He goes, $8,000. I was like, all right, man, we'll see you later, because it's just.
Has he never heard of YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, people get away with, guys with cameras. They get away with the first sale and the second sale, but they're not gonna get more than that, because people catch on pretty quick that it's just a kid with a camera.
Yeah, interesting. That's actually very interesting. What's performance windows? And follow up, what makes a window perform?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that make performance windows and a window perform. Performance windows, I started it in April of 2020, so right when the pandemic kicked off. I was crazy broke. I was $200,000 in the worst kind of debt possible. I had a $2,000 loan on my tires that was at 26% interest, and I paid that off with that first stimmy. That was awesome.
That was a big day.
But I owed my old man 40 G's. I owed my younger sister 20. I was just filthy debt. And I was working at Weave at the time, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I worked there, and I loved it. There was my first time being in a tech company, and I remember I would work 9 hours there at Weave, and then I'd get off and I'd drive over to Pleasant Grove, and I'd knock doors for this other window company. It's replacement windows for homes, and I'd do it in the dark with a camping lantern. I'd knock on the door and say, trying to sell them replacement windows, and I'd make more in that hour after work than in the 9 hours of being at work. And I was the top SDR. I was SDR of the year at Weave, right?
Wait, what does SDR mean?
Same as BDR, sales development representative.
Okay.
Yeah. A phone dialer. And I remember I really wanted to be an AE, an account executive, and they told me, if you so-and-so you do this, then you'll be that. Instead of giving me, it's like Dwight on The Office. In lieu of a pay raise, they gave him 13th employee of the month. In lieu of an increase, they gave me SDR of the month or SDR of the year, and I still keep that plaque to remember that if you want it, you got to go take it, kind of thing.
That's very interesting.
So April of 2020, we just they had sent everybody home. We were all down from home, and my partner, who we were knocking at the same time, he's like, we decided let's just open our own. And I said, well, here's the deal. I want an office. As long as we got an office, I don't care, because he wanted to have our meetings at Beto's and just split burritos every time. I'm like, dude, I can't do that to myself. And he agreed. I called my manager. I said, hey, today's my last day. And he's like, well, if you quit now, you won't get your bonus, or you won't get your commission at the end of this month. I was like, well, it's $130, so you can keep it, brother. And we opened that month, April of 2020. Everybody was home in Utah. And that first year, we ended up doing $4 million. The next year, we ended up doing $16 million. The following year, we did 34, and then this last year, we ended up doing about $61 million.
Dude, what are you talking about?
Yep,
that
crazy,
is
huh?
absurd.
Yeah, it's been insane. Now we're at 10, about to be 11 offices. We're across the country. Salesforce is about 150 guys. It's year round, and we've got 25-year-olds making $1 million, and if I could have made $1 million at 25, I would have done some terrible things.
Yeah.
My mother wouldn't have been proud of me to know what I would have done for $1 million at 25. And it's been a wild ride, and we're two guys who've had to figure it out along the way.
How did you figure out the whole supply chain, the whole everything around that? Because obviously hey, I'm doing good, knocking door to door, but how do you figure out the business behind that?
I attribute a lot to my partner. His name is Levi Henry. He's a genius. He's really good at the numbers. I've always been really good at the people aspect, so I've been able to help build the sales team and things, but he really dug in and built the back end. And the back end is not cool. It really sucks, but
well, that's where all the money's made.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm a sales guy.
No. You got to close the deals,
Yeah.
but then you got to fulfill on it.
Yeah, and he's a genius for what he's done there. And a lot of people have tried to recreate it, and they're facing some consequences for it. But I remember in those early days, I was the lucky one that I used to be able to get $1,000 a week. And he went about 3-4 months without any pay. We had to raise about $350,000 of money just to be able, because the way it works is you order windows and you pay your sales guy. You don't get those windows for 6 weeks, right? Because they got to get made. So
right.
We sell $300,000 worth of windows this month, and we pay our sales guys, do all that stuff, and then sell. Then 2 months later, we sell $600,000 worth of windows, but we're only getting the money from the 300,000. So every month that we get bigger, we're actually hamstringing ourselves. And I remember it was Thanksgiving. It was like the week before Thanksgiving. I went up to my guys and I told them, hey, great news. You guys have been so good. Take the rest of this week and next week off. And they were just so hyped. And it was because if we made one more sale, we would have been effed. We couldn't have paid commission. And we never missed a dollar of commission up front every week. And it was a real tough slog, but we made it.
These businesses where it's like there's real challenges with being too successful are fascinating, particularly in that early days where it's like, well, we got to fulfill on it. How do we pay commissions? All that type of stuff. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was then once we got we've got a great partner with Synchrony Bank. We're on their board of advisors. I love doing board of advisors for Synchrony because I'm the only kid in sweat shorts and everybody else has these shirt and ties, and they love me. They'll give me Red Bull and they love having me there because it's me and Levi are real lucky in that we've been able to stay very grounded even as things have really exploded for us. Partnerships are not easy. Me and him are both very strong-headed dudes. But I think early on we understood that, we had something special and it was mutually assured destruction if either one of us were ever like, hey, F you, man, I'm out of here. So I've always said that my life and my career will be defined by the partnerships that I have. I mean, I am a firm believer that there is no self-made man, whatever you do.
Yeah, for sure. Garrett's living proof of that.
Amen. Amen. I was learning about y'all in the duck blind because we have a mutual friend that works for you, and he was explaining the process, right? Because the only thing I've ever sold door to door is a little bit of Jesus.
Hell yeah, me too.
And no pest control, no security, nothing. And I'm like, what do you do if you knock on somebody's door and say, hey, you want some windows?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's it. And then you can incentivize them by like putting up a sign in their yard.
Yep.
And I go, okay. And then we just kept duck hunting.
Yeah, and you're talking about Alex Butterfield.
Yeah.
He's the man. He does. The thing is, we just brought him in to do our marketing, and we like having him because me and Levi are true blue sales guys, which means that we hate marketers. We hate all. We've always said those nerds don't know how to do this, and it turns out that they know how to do it super well. So it's good having him in there because he came from PE, but he's one of those guys you get that you don't have to tell him, hey, go work some more. He's just always super engaged, and it's what's been the hardest thing for us is that what goes to build a $4 million company and then 16, 32, 60. Each step of the game, we're having to relearn. It's very much, who moved my cheese? We got to be sniff and scurry because if not, there's somebody coming for our back every single time. And so being able to bring in guys that are so dedicated and have such a skill set that we don't have is such a big plus for us. I mean, you guys are around a lot of people that you're like, damn, that guy is just smart at something that I have no idea about. And it's really cool to watch.
I'm interested in this question. I've seen it a lot. Clint's seen it a lot. You mentioned the numbers jumping. You mentioned you had this dirty debt, not the good kind.
Yeah.
Things were not going well, and now things are. I would imagine there was people that could have given two damns about Kyle Deever in March of 2020.
Yeah.
And now you're the belle of the ball. How is that?
Well,
your brain?
What's really funny is that I've had a very unique experience, especially in doing networking here in Utah County, because I am by no means a business savant. In fact, I always say I'm pretty dumb. But I've gone to a lot of networking things when I started doing this thing, and I'd see these guys that were just purporting and showing like they were making so much money, and then they would start talking, and I'd be like, that doesn't sound right. But who am I? Because I've always been so. I don't want to pat myself too hard on the back here, but I've just tried to be authentic that I am who I am. But what's been really interesting to me is to see these guys with 80,000 followers, and then they'll have one comment I didn't understand, and then as I came more into the world, I started understanding, and so I I didn't like that I was seeing a lot of guys that were selling the fact that, hey, I'll teach you how to make money, but they hadn't actually made money. That's how they were going to make money, by teaching people how to make money. And so I've had the unique, to answer your question, I've had the unique opportunity to not thump my own chest and just be a guy who just walks around, and I prefer that people don't know, like, oh, that he's anything, because what I've found is that the people I like the most are the ones that when they think I'm just some dude in sweatshorts, these are actually my Lulus, these are my nice pants.
Ooh, you put on the Lulus for the show, dude.
For the show. But I've liked that I've found a lot of people that they won't even sniff at me when they don't think I'm anything. But they're the guys that do. A great example is Sean Finnegan. Sean Finnegan didn't know that I was basically anything and just became my best friend. Those are the kind of guys that I want to do work in business with long term. And so
tell me who Sean Finnegan is. How have I heard that?
Tax Hive. He does a lot of connector stuff, a lot of networking things. Very connected guy, but he's just. I remember the first time I ever met him, and Garrett knows him well. But I remember the first time I got introduced to him via text message, and then he starts FaceTiming me, and I was with my wife. I was like, "You think he's doing this on purpose?" And I took it, and he's just the most inviting guy. He sees the best in people. In fact, a lot of times he'll connect me with somebody, and I'll have to say, "Now, Sean, I know you see the best in people, but come on, is he really good?" And then he'll give me his real opinion on something. But Sean Finnegan is one of the most genuine and greatest connectors in Utah County by far.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
He'd be a great one for the show. Great one for the show.
Good friend. We were at the Warriors game a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, we'll have him on the show. Consummate networker and connector, but he's also got like 5 or 6 really good businesses he's always operating. And
yeah, that's Tax Hive down. You know, what's that shoe store called? Not the Collective.
Kizik?
No.
Connect. Anyways, they're just out of
the
old Trafalgar.
Right off Center Street.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the old Trafalgar. It sucks that Trafalgar's not around anymore. That's a cool place.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned something there that's actually really interesting and probably worth talking about, particularly for those who are listening and for the community, of how many people I'm seeing, far more than like in 2013, 2014, 2015 when we started this, maybe even earlier than that, maybe 2010. I'm seeing far more people going around acting as though they've made it and acting as though like we need to listen to their opinions and like there's like these things called like LinkedIn influencers. You ever heard of those?
I personally am not on LinkedIn just because I'm.
Well, there's like these people who are like, I've got to post every day on LinkedIn. I've got to give advice. They like tell a story. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting story. And then the second half of the post is why you need to be a better person because of the story they just told you.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, just end the story.
The big problem I've had, honestly, and like I said, I'm in a unique position that, you know, I get more time to vet things out and understand before but what I've always felt, it's really insidious to act like you're bigger than you are to sell something. You know, I'm a sales guy, so there are sales truths, but to take advantage of somebody who is really just not making money, getting screwed, and have them give you their widow's mite so that you can say, hey, but give me more. I've always felt it's super insidious. That goes right along with buying followers. I mean, that's always been my biggest.
Wait, tell me what buying followers is.
On Instagram. On Instagram, you can have fake followers. So you'll look at guys and they have 40,000, 50,000 followers, and then you go check their ratios. They've got 2 comments, 40 likes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so what it does is it gives them an air of legitimacy when in reality they're not. And so then Joe Schmo will be like, oh, that guy's real big time. To me, I've never liked it. I've never liked it. And I understand trying to make some money, but it's a grift. I mean, I have a hard time with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of advice from people like that, even like randomly. There's like people I know who like I'm seeing are like giving advice and like posting and saying all these things like, here's how I did it. I'm like, you are a loser.
Yeah.
I actually like know you.
Yeah.
You're like an actual like loser.
I love this. We're finally being truthful because.
By the way, I'm talking about Garrett.
Yeah, I was gonna say we start airing some truth.
I see his bullshit on LinkedIn. I'm like, you are an actual loser. You can't get through 10 seconds of a show without coughing constantly.
Garrett he hasn't coughed one time.
Oh my gosh!
You know, I don't know how to do those posts on LinkedIn. but I've got lots of friends, and
Oh, whoa! Here it comes! Oh my
is
gosh!
at the top of the list for people that hate getting advice. I've seen people give him advice many, many, many times. And you can see him start to physically push his chair towards the first opening. And it might be a window.
Yeah.
It's usually a door, but he's like, he'll do anything to get out of that.
The window
Vortex.
is preferable. I was
Yeah.
like, I would rather fall to my death
Well, the problem is
than
you
listen
guys,
to you explain to me how I should make money on Bitcoin.
problem is
Screw
you guys are only on 3rd floor here, so that's only going to sprain an ankle pretty
I know,
bad. and
it's not even worth
not going to
it.
kill you.
You gotta keep. He comes in here. Here's how you make money on cryptocurrency. No, he doesn't. But you know all these people who they're crypto experts all of a sudden.
I actually, to be honest,
Now they're AI experts. Remember, like all these crypto people. Like now they're like AI experts.
I've thought about getting into the crypto influencing where I just have everybody fade my bets because I've bought at the top every single time and sold at the bottom. I've never missed on that. So I'm a big time gambler. So anytime you can fade my stuff, you're going to be in good shape.
Interesting.
I love it. See, that's good advice.
I'll start posting my bets. What I've started doing now is I'll do sports bets just about every day, and especially on the NBA. I'm better on the NFL, but I'll just ask my 7-year-old daughter. Yesterday I said, okay, 76ers or I forget who they're playing, Raptors. 76ers, and she hit. My daughter, who's just on a random guess, will hit a lot more than me, and then I'll go buy her something if she wins. So
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm
You must be liking
probably
March Madness. You betting on that?
Never been a college guy. Never.
Really?
No, I just
Well, that's some fun betting.
it's just institutionally until they can start getting paid. Maybe I can start getting. I'm just kidding. I don't care about them getting paid.
They get paid now.
Yeah, no, they are.
The athletes do. If
And-
that's what you're talking about.
NIL.
NIL.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting rich.
By the way, now everyone's like that's a funny example too. Everyone's like an expert on NIL, and I'm seeing like
That
all these
is what I've seen,
NIL
yeah.
companies coming to me like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this NIL company?" Well, what does that do? It's like we invest in players. Well, shut up.
I had a member of my family try and open a credit card and buy NFTs. I said, I will physically accost you. And it was like 2 weeks before the whole bottom fell out. NFTs were a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there were people like, "Here's the NFTs you need to get, and if you just hold them for years," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "What?"
You will be rich.
Maybe. By the way, maybe that's even true. But whoa,
It's not true.
I'm not doing it.
Now there's a swimmer out of Lone Peak that if you invest in and they go to UVU and swim well, huge upside.
Oh, you can bet
There's
on
some
future
advice.
athletes? That's crazy.
What?
Hell yeah.
Wait.
I'll tell you what that'd be, because sometimes I'm up at like 3 a.m. watching Korean women's soccer trying to get my fix. So if I can bet on future athletes, that'd be awesome.
You'll bet on Korean women's soccer, but not the March Madness,
I
dude.
remember one time I was downstairs, and this was when I was broke, and I was putting a bunch of money into this online site, Offseas, and I hear a call from my wife, Kyle, what is this? And I'm like, oh, nothing, don't worry.
At that point, it's better to say it's porn. It's
Yeah,
porn. Just a porn thing. Sorry. I'm not gambling off.
Yeah,
I'm not offshore gambling.
Korean baseball. Like the month or two after March of 2020, I also like to gamble.
My guy.
There was very few options at that point, but Korean baseball was one of them.
I didn't get a view on those. I should have.
Yeah, it was.
Speaking of
rough.
speaking of Asian baseball, what's going on with your boy Shohei?
Oh, this is a good, interesting question because we have an actual Dodgers fan.
Yeah, the Ohtani stuff. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, very relatable. I'd have a hard time not doing it.
So I'm not. All I understand is there was a little bit of a story change. There was his interpreter needing like $4 million. Interpreter gets canned.
To pay off like gambling debts or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then they switched the story a little bit to where they're like, we might need to look into this a little bit further. But if you're not paying attention to it, you must not be worried yet.
No, I just assume everybody's doing whatever. I don't care what he does. Can he pitch
Can you
and
hit a
hit?
baseball? Yeah. That's
Can
right.
he pitch and hit? I don't care what he does.
It's like Kobe after those allegations came out in Colorado. Man, that guy was balling. I'm telling you what, he's gonna have his best season yet. Ohtani.
Yeah, court during the day and dropping 50 at night. That is a crazy life.
But to be honest, so I've always been a gambler. Even as I've made money, and I kind of really related that to my business is that gamblers, they get that dopamine hit not from winning, but from placing the bet, right? I win a bet, I'm like, oh yeah, that's sweet. But then I'm getting excited when I place the next bet. And that's the same thing for, I see a lot of entrepreneurs or gamblers that, they don't really, they get excited when you make some sales, but they get the dopamine hit when they open the doors. When you open the doors for business, it's like, okay, I'm taking a gamble on another day here. And that's what I think has kind of really propelled me. I mean, Bad Bet Productions, people always kind of get after me for it being a negative name, but I remember when I'm a serial failed entrepreneur. I've gotten my ass whipped on plenty of things. And I remember when I went home for Christmas one time, and I told my dad, hey, I'm doing all these businesses, and I'm starting to feel like betting on doing stuff for myself is a bad bet. And he goes, well, it is. You're lazy. You're this. You're this. You're this. And I walked away saying, "Oh, f him. He doesn't know." And as I drove home to Utah from California, I was like, I'm getting so much mental credit for just thinking about doing things rather than going out there and then I go sit down. I'll play games or something, and it's like it is a bad bet. It's like, have you guys ever read what's that one with Napoleon Hill? I typically hate Hill, but that Conversation with the Devil. What's it? Outwitting the Devil, and he talks about a medium plan performed over and over and over again is going to be a million times better than an incredible plan that you just sit and wait for, right? And I've always been a gambler, and I'm always going to be a gambler because it's just I get that dopamine hit from opening the doors and saying what's going to happen today.
Yeah.
Now there's your advice.
There's some
I like
advice.
that.
Even Clint Betts loved that one.
Hell yeah, it's going to start gambling.
Well, there's no windows in here, so what choice did I have?
You would
stuck.
Sticking a fork in an electrical socket. It is fun to watch. I like that. What you just said. There's a lot in there, right? Your dad's saying, "Yeah, you're right. You're a bad bet."
Bad bet.
And
that was my nickname in high school. Bad Bets. My last name's Betts.
That is a good name.
It wasn't my nickname.
Pretty good one.
It was like dipshit Betts.
I want to ask one more question about performance.
Yeah.
The likability of these sales folks versus like the product.
We've got a great system, and the system is bigger than us. To be honest, we've had some people peel off of us or open other window companies. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are, and you're a bad person.
Yeah.
But it really is the system. The system's bigger than us, bigger than me, bigger than Levi. When we make decisions, it's got to be for the system, but it's got to be product too. What I tell my people all the time is when some guy slams a door in your face, you're not fighting against his view of you or what you're doing. You're fighting against his view of the last 1,000 guys who've knocked on his door and lied or offered this everything. So to be honest, it's like if my grandmother was on life support and they gave me power of attorney, I'd get her some windows because it's a product that I can believe in. I remember. Here's a story that has kind of stuck with me and really was formative for me early on in the company. I was the owner, but also the only closer. Right, I was working a lot, and I get a call from one of our knockers like, "Hey, there's this guy over here." It was in Linden, and he's blind, and I think he's not really all there, and it's a 100-year-old trailer, but he really wants windows. And I'm like, "Dude, Mike, what the hell, man? Come on." And so I go over there and I'm running the appointment. And it's this guy. He's a dishwasher at Village Inn, and he's on disability and things. And I'm just looking for every reason to not do this. I mean, he's blind, and he's I'm trying to gauge if he's capable of making these. I'm looking around at papers as I'm measuring windows. I'm asking him, hey, does anybody ever come like take care of you, do all these things? And this whole time I'm like, I can't. I don't. But then we sit down, and he says, I'm really glad you're here because every winter I sit in this armchair, and I'm so cold. So I'm really glad you're here. I'm like, oh, thank the Lord he said that because I know I can fix that problem. And it's a guy's name is James, and that was 4 years ago. He calls me all the time and says, hey, I love these windows, man. And that was a really formative time for me because I've been a salesman who's had to sell things that maybe I didn't believe in. Sure. It feels so good to sell something that's awesome.
Yeah, that makes really a difference. That's so cool. That's awesome.
Very
Hey,
cool.
Kyle, thanks for coming in, man. By the way,
Thank
your
you.
hat. Tell me about the hat, because there's a cover band called No Quarter for Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's that.
I'm not. I don't think so. It was Instagram. I was like, that hat looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And it's I've become more of a hat guy as my hair's thinned out a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
my wife every time she's like, it's not getting thin. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of getting thin, baby. So the other day I was in the office and Levi was like, hey man, that's getting a little thin. I'm like, oh, you bastard. You hate to hear it.
Let me go on Instagram and buy a hat.
Yep.
And you pull it with. There. By the way, shout out to No Quarter, the cover band for Led Zeppelin. It's like you're at a Led Zeppelin concert.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very cool.
Well, there is a day that we all should talk like pirates. I'll be sure to look up what that day is, because that hat's got me thinking
Yeah,
and
I'm not
talking
gonna do
like a
that.
pirate.
I'm not going to do
I
that.
can't wait to give advice in pirate talk to Clint.
Thanks, man. How do
Yeah.
people get in touch with you?
Dude, honestly, and that's what I've always said is that one of the best, one of your greatest abilities is availability. I pride myself on people being able to get in touch with me. Instagram, I'm on it all the time. It's real Kyle Deever. Thought that was a little pretentious to put the real in front of it, but took my shot. Didn't buy the blue check mark, so real Kyle Deever Instagram.
I think I do have the blue check mark on Instagram, and I never post on Instagram.
Instagram is where I live, and that's where people can find me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, who do we have tomorrow, Garrett?
Jonathan Johnson, former
Oh.
CEO of Overstock.
Ooh.
Couple of days you got
Good
on
one.
the CEO of Aptiv, don't you?
Yep, best.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan Johnson, very good man. Been in this community for a very long time. Former CEO of Overstock. He's the guy who acquired Bed Bath & Beyond. That'll
Yeah.
be super interesting. All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow.
All right.